But I want to come to another very critical set of characters in your book, and that is Amitabh Bachchan and his wife Jaya Bachchan. Well, she's not a critical character in the Bofors story, but she comes with him. They come to your home for dinner. You are never convinced that Mr. Bachchan has received any sort of money, any sort of bribe. And Bachchan has spoken often. This is only one of the headlines about how painful it was for him to be drawn into this controversy. And he arrives at your apartment. He has dinner with you. Your mother-in-law makes gnocchi. So you can see that I've read the book. And then you start getting attacked for your position on Bachchan. And we'll play out those excerpts. So what you say in the book, if we can bring them up now, and you are called an Amitabh Bachchan mole. There is also sort of slander, which worse kind of slander, which is typical of how women journalists are spoken about, implying a personal relationship with Amitabh Bachchan and so on. Talk a little bit about, and I think somewhere in the book you say, I was not a Bachchan mole, I was a fan.
Yes.
And so there's a very human account of how the Bachchans come home for dinner. And you say perhaps for the first time in your life, in the beginning, you're a little tongue-tied. You're hoping Bofors doesn't come up. Maybe we'll stick to poetry and Harivansh Rai Bachchan. Of course, that doesn't happen. So what happened?
What happened was that I talk about it when first call comes and Giancarlo is trying to write the name down. And, I'm feeding Nikhil. And then someone on the other side says CH, Giancarlo notes CH. Then he comes back with another CH, and then Giancarlo yells and then says CH, CH, yes, I know. Then I say, my God, who is calling? So, this goes on. And then they come home, and my God, they're so elegant. Mr. Bachchan is like tall and elegant and so very well dressed. And then he tells Giancarlo, you're taller than me. So I'm completely tongue-tied. You have no idea.
Yeah.
I didn't wish to speak about Bofors. It was so petty. But I don't have the evidence. And imagine telling somebody as grand as him, sir, I don't know. I mean, who am I to blame you? And there is no evidence. And the way the whole thing was done was absolutely vulgar. It was so vulgar. You won't believe how vulgar it was. And, there is something called the sanctity of an investigation. And you know this. When you're investigating and, you're going slowly, building up one account, every bit of information is precious. You don't want to get lost. And then, boom, this sixth account. Where on earth, does it come from? Sixth account mil gaya, ek aur account mil gaya, And I'm not able to confirm this. I'm not able to confirm this with my sources in Sweden or Switzerland.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Bachchan, go ahead.
Bofors is seen to have changed the relationship between Mr. Bachchan and the Gandhi family. Nobody actually knows for sure. I have tried in multiple interviews over the years to try and understand what happened. How did these two families that were so close completely move apart? But let's stay on Bachchan for just a moment. At some point, you are so convinced of Bachchan's innocence that Bachchan asks you whether you would consider testifying. You think about it and you decide that you can't do it. But you send him a fax, and those were the days of faxes, with whatever you know up until that point. Journalistically, you believe this is not breaching your integrity because you're just sharing what you know and what you actually believe. But Rajat Sharma, who's a senior journalist here in India, pounces on you, goes after you. He's not the only one. And everybody accuses you of basically shilling for Amitabh Bachchan. Yes. How do you deal with this? How do you cope with it?
I think it's very poor journalism because if Rajat Sharma wanted, all he had to do was to pick up the phone and ask me, what is that fax about, right? Did you send the fax and can you explain the context of it? But of course not, because I don't believe he's a journalist. And you just go after me. There's a whole context to it, right? This has been, so it's such a small detail. And of course, I don't want to talk about the other rubbish that was written about me because I have them all. But
and that rubbish was basically insinuating a personal relationship between you and Mr. Bachchan.
Yeah, thank God it was him and not someone else. Because, imagine, I was flattered that, very flattered. But, and thank God my husband, can you imagine if it was, well, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But and but if you get something as important as this at
Yeah.
such a critical phase, would you not speak to the person and say, listen,
Yeah.
I have these facts. Can you please explain? I mean,
Yeah.
that's a basic journalist. So I don't believe he's a journalist. Yeah.
But how did you cope with that? Because Rajat was not the only one going after you. You write in the book that there was, gossip columnists, editors, influential people basically going after you, all guns blazing, for accusing you of protecting Amitabh Bachchan. Now, what I want to ask you is, you describe this evening when they come home for dinner, the gnocchi that's made, your mother-in-law saying what an elegant man. You talk about his perfectly tailored trousers, his socks with that go above his calf, all the rest of it,
And
the
you read
elegance.
my book. You've read my book.
I have read your book. I am old school in that way. I do not do interviews before reading a book. But my question is, did he seem shaken? Did he seem hurt? Did he seem angry? Or did he not reveal how he was feeling when he comes
Yeah.
home to dinner and talks to you?
We are, no, how did I cope? First of all, I didn't get to see all this. Thank God.
Yeah,
It was not in the days of the WhatsApps and that.
correct.
Yeah, we met a few times after that. And of course, he was hurt. He was devastated. The
Hmm.
man was devastated because they went after him. They froze all his bank accounts. I mean, including, I think, I think the man was devastated. The man was devastated. They treated him badly without any evidence. You know,
One of the sentences in your book is Amitabh Bachchan was hounded by the machinery of the Indian state, while
yes.
Wing Chadda was actually being able to come and go with a much greater degree of freedom. And you point
Yes.
out that irony that Wing Chadda had more freedom than Amitabh Bachchan. So who was after Amitabh Bachchan? Who do you think was after Amitabh Bachchan? And why?
It's a good question, Barkha. Yeah, Win Chadda was going in and out of the Indian mission in New York, pretending to be ill. Uh, I think there's a lot of envy, Mr. Bachchan.
Hmm.
Mr. Bachchan being who he is.
Yeah,
Uh, Indians don't like successful people. I
correct.
mean, they just don't like anyone who's successful, who doesn't need the state. And it's just this, I think it's envy. I mean, here was this, I can't, I mean, subsequently, I mean, he was very badly treated. And then he took people to court. But imagine what it means to be accused of something like this. It is horrible.
Yeah.
It's horrible. And it's horrible for me as a journalist, sort of, I'm little compared to him, Barkha, Now
Yeah.
we met a few times in Neo. We were talking. The man was, it was horrible. It was horrible. Yeah.
You are less complimentary about Amitabh Bachchan's brother
Yeah.
Ajita,
Yeah.
who you described to be long on self pity and short on manners, if I remember your sentence correctly. Why was Ajita Bachchan so different to you from his brother?
Because he's like Mr. Bachchan. Amitabh Bachchan is self-made, right? I mean,
Yeah,
I mean, Ajitab is what? He's Amitabh Bachchan's brother.
yeah.
So, I mean, he can afford, he's not an Amitabh Bachchan. So he's sort of full of himself. Mr. Bachchan is
But
not,
what did Ajita Bachchan want from you? What did he seek from you?
I've built this flat on my own, blah, blah, blah. I'm not interested in your story. I'm here, my children are going to school here. I mean, I'm not interested in your story. He's not an Amitabh Bachchan. Amitabh Bachchan was not at all victimhood. He was not playing the victim, not pretending to be a victim at all. He was
And
no shit. And Ajita pretended to be a victim and called me at all times of the day and night. And I was telling him I have a small kid. Yeah, I mean, come on.
and did that ever come up in your conversations with Amitabh Bachchan? How his brother was behaving?
No, no, no. It was too. I told him, but it was not important enough. No,
Hmm.
I did tell him. What did I tell him? I don't remember. No, he was not important enough.